Morning, ladies and gentlemen. If I can just open up and welcome you here this morning, and thanks for the turnout. It's most impressive at the hour that we've asked you to be here for. This morning you will see a camera in the room. We are just looking to record events this morning just so that we can actually put it on the website, so that if there are any businesses or even yourself, if you want to have a recap about what was discussed or whatever, then you'll be able to link up to it in due course on our website. My name is Dale Milburn. I'm Knowsley's Director of Business Investments and Sustainability, and I'm joined by colleagues from Arup and the Energy Savings Trust. We'll literally probably take about 20 minutes or so just running through a few slides, just talking myself, to talk about the sort of wider regeneration programme that we at Council have for the Industrial Park, of which the Energy Network project is part of that. Steve will then talk to you about the detail around an energy network and the benefits that brings, and some of the case studies that Arup have been involved in. And then Catherine will talk around the sort of ongoing engagement with yourselves as we move the project forward. So covered that one, so if you just flick on one more for us. In terms of the industrial park and business park, then we very much see this as one of the key priority projects for the council moving forward. It has a massive role to play in the city region. Other than the industrial park in Trafford Park, there isn't a park bigger than this in the northwest. We see it as having the ability, and our ambitions for it to be the largest and most successful park in 2027. To do that, it does require significant investment. The history of the park dates back obviously to the Second World War, and some of the buildings on there are of that age. There has been a lot of investment recently, with new companies coming in all the time. To do that, one of the reasons behind the sort of energy network, we see that as giving the park a bit of a USP. So, as well as sustaining the businesses there already, it will also help us attract further businesses in. We've got an ambition to obviously increase job numbers, number of businesses, number of floor space. Again, for the regeneration side of things, it is about us driving physical improvements. So that will be new business premises. So looking at the opportunities to create and develop new sites with the private sector. The council won't be building anything, that's not our role. We're here as one facilitator. And I think what the council's done for us, despite the sort of cuts and things that all public sector agencies are facing at the moment, the council has allocated over the next couple of years £6 million to sort of facilitate and drive that investment. And we're working with a number of parties, and there are a number of actual projects in the pipeline now to see new product coming forward. Linked to that, we're looking at environmental improvements, and there's a big concerted effort out on the park at the moment in terms of sort of a clean up, tackling areas of blight and overgrown vegetation, etc. And I think, by way of an example, I think on 2 roads alone in the park, I think Rupert's team actually removed something like 30 tonnes of detritus and rubbish, etc. on just 2 roads. Now, obviously, it's a big park. We are working our way around, and what we'll be doing with the landowners on the areas where we're working is working with them about their own sites as well. And I think you are already seeing the benefits of that work. We're looking at crime and safety initiative. So again, obviously there used to be a business watch on the park. That's recently been relaunched by the Chamber. There is a CCTV network on the industrial park, not one down here on the business park, but we are looking at that as part of that initiative in terms of what's needed and what would be beneficial. Branding and promotion for us, again, I think the current branding we've got is several years old. We are looking at bringing that into the modern day and how we go about promoting the park, looking at new gateway signage and things. And then obviously why we're here today, the Energy Network. And that's a network which you'll hear more about shortly, but will provide not only access to heat and to steam, but also potentially to electricity. Okay, so why is it important? I think here in the UK we do lag behind. It is a firmly established principle, but something like only about 2% of our heat demand comes from this source at the moment. It will help contribute to the climate change agenda and help you all with your own carbon reduction commitments. It's cost effective, it's a viable alternative. And you as businesses, it means that you don't have to do it yourself. by putting in an energy network, that network can serve many of you all at the same time, so you don't need to look at individual solutions. Okay, so how have we got here today? Back in 2011-12, Arup did a feasibility study for us to say, is the capability on the park to actually look at a network? The answer to that was yes. We found that there was strong interest from you, the occupiers, and the main thing is dealing with the sort of heat side of things, because a lot of heat is generated as part of this. And that came back as there is a very good appetite amongst you, and we felt that there was sufficient demand there to be able to drive that forward. The principle that's come forward is that we look at 4 energy centres serving both the business park and the industrial park. I think the plan is ultimately that those centres will provide resilience for each other, so that if there was ever a problem with one, then the others can support it. But basically, one in the north, one in the east, west, and one in the south. Okay. Where are we going next? Well, as I say, we now have Arup on board to drive that project forward, and we're looking at going through a procurement process, which we're just starting that journey on, to actually identify a strategic partner to come in and deliver this for us. Again, this is not the council that will do this. This is us bringing on board the private sector to put the investment in to deliver this network. We envisage the selection process going on throughout 14 and 15, and looking at a start on site in sort of 15, 16. Business engagement is critical. What we need to have ultimately to make this thing fly is customers that are willing to take both the sort of heat and the electricity that's coming out. Electricity's secondary in a sense, because obviously we can always sell that back to the grid if need be. But there's huge benefits on selling that to you, the businesses, in terms of reduced cost, etc. I think we've got various surveys and things out at the moment. I think we've had a limited response back, so I think if you haven't completed the survey already, I'd encourage you to do that. But I think Catherine will talk about that a little bit more shortly. Okay. I think that's possibly me done. It is, thank goodness for that. I'll hand you over to Steve and he'll explain everything that an energy centre is. Cheers.
Okay, hope you enjoyed the Baker Seas, everyone. Just to give a little canter through some of the benefits of district heating, and apologies if this is all news to some of you that are more afraid to this type of technology. Bottom line is this is about reducing your bottom line costs as a business and ensuring that you become more competitive in the regional, national and international markets. Quite often now energy is becoming the differentiator between becoming a competitive business and being able to challenge in various markets. And what district heating in particular brings is a long-term price structure and stability and moves you away from the volatility of the retail market. It's also a technology that provides you with a smarter way of controlling your energy consumption and using more localised energy generation sources, which in turn allows you to have a greater amount of flexibility to strike deals for flexible tariffs and duration of concessions to ensure that meets your specific business needs as they change over time. It's about resilient design and providing a secure heat source, moving away from more conventional sources which are on-site solutions which require you to put out various requirements in terms of OPEX and affect your CAPEX as a business. And very important that this is having a longer term vision of, yes, this is about providing a district heat network and potentially localised electricity generation and consumption on the KIP site, but it's also looking outside of the envelope of the KIP site and seeing whether or not there is potential for expansion of the heat network into the surrounding communities, so that district heating could be a solution that starts to address significant issues such as fuel poverty, whereby price increases are really going to start to have an increasingly significant impact on the most vulnerable people across Knowsley. In addition to that, as I referred to earlier, it's about avoiding or deferring your OPEX and CAPEX. And it's also about reducing your plant insurances, meaning that you don't have to rely on your conventional boiler systems, etc. So what we thought was was to start to demonstrate that this isn't just a nice thing to do. This is about a real business decision taken on behalf by the council to move Knowsley Industrial Park forward as a modern business park that meets modern business requirements. So we've done a quick canter to demonstrate that there are various sites, particularly enterprise zones across the UK, that are starting to look at this as a technology, and also starting to demonstrate that in the Liverpool City region alone, there are a number of schemes that are starting to get to quite an advanced stage where the business case is starting to be set out and they're starting to become investment-ready projects. And also to give you just a couple of examples to show that there are schemes that are already in operation, so this isn't anything new. This is an established technology with a good track record that needs to be deployed across the UK. So just to canter through, and we won't go into any detail, but we're there to answer questions later on and to give you further examples if need be. Cytec Daresbury in Halton is an area that is currently going under a major electricity network upgrade, and on the back of that they are looking at district heating as a solution for providing heat to businesses on the park, but also to look again very much in the same way that Knowsley is starting to look at it, beyond the envelope of providing heat to surrounding communities and new developments that are going to come online in the next 15 years. Boots Enterprise Zone in Nottingham, that is an established heat network where Boots has already made a connection to a heat network that's supplying various parts of the city centre, but they're also looking to expand that heat network further for their own operations and to surrounding businesses on the sites that they occupy. Airport City in Manchester, where the Manchester Airport Group, they have an overarching energy master plan approach which is looking to integrate various different types of infrastructures as Airport City comes online over the next 10 to 20 years. And that's very much focused on ensuring that when they start to look at district heating, other forms of infrastructures are delivered at the same time to ensure that the capex is reduced as much as possible, which in turn will have much greater impacts on reduced tariffs for businesses. And also over in Tees Valley, the process industry cluster, a lot of politically sensitive news surrounding where Merseyside's waste goes in future. Well, that's where it's going to go and be processed and used for energy generation, and that's with a view to in future providing businesses with extra cash also. Just move through that. Just to recap on those areas there, we can provide the slides later on. But again, the Tees Valley Process Industry Cluster has just secured 28 million private investment through the Department of Energy and Climate Change, and they are now looking to use that money to now start looking at innovative ways of expanding the heat network, both on the process cluster sites but also the surrounding areas. In a little bit more of a localised example, Stobart Biomass at the 3MG multimodal site. A planning application has been approved for a 20 megawatt biomass plant. And that's also designed to provide heat to a local occupier on the site adjacent to Stobart's operations for the freight terminal. The heat is all to be used on site, but there could be potential for expanding that network in the future to surrounding areas, particularly some quite localised communities that are in and around that area. And it's identified that it will provide around about 20 local jobs to operate the plant and a further 5 jobs associated with the supply chain to get the biomass fuel to site and to ensure that it's a suitable quality to be used for energy generation. And it's estimated that around about 84,000 tonnes of carbon will be saved annually through that operation. A much more established plant is in Slough, Heat and Power. That's run by SSE, who recently bought it out a few years ago, around about 5 years ago. It's based on Slough Trading Estate, but was originally a coal-fired plant that was built in the 1920s, was then adapted and converted to biomass. It has a total capacity of 101 megawatts and is currently operating at 80 megawatts. It burns wood chips from a range of different sources that are brought in from overseas, but also locally supplied in and around the UK. And its heat is used primarily on the trading estate, but it also supplies electricity and heat to 3,000 industrial and domestic customers in and around that area. Finally, in Shotton, not too far away, is the UPM paper mill, and that was with a view that they undertook quite a robust audit of their energy consumption and made the decision that they wanted greater control of their energy and decided to commission a 20 megawatt renewable fuel combined heat and power plant. They were very keen to reduce their costs in the long term to make them much more competitive as a business, and that was decided that they also wanted to go down the zero carbon route to ensure that they had better environmental credentials to go to market to potential customers. The plant provides a third of their electricity and 100% of their heat requirements, delivers carbon savings of around about 190,000 tonnes a year. And that's it from me.
Well, good morning, everybody. As you know, my name is Catherine Monaghan and I'm representing the Energy Saving Trust. I'm going to spend a minute just explaining who we are because it's important about why we're here and why we're leading on the task in terms of stakeholder engagement. We're a social enterprise with a charitable foundation. We were set up by government many, many years ago following the climate change convention, and our role is to help householders and communities and businesses now, more lately, to basically reduce energy and ultimately save carbon. Over the last few years, we understand carbon isn't normally the terminology people like to talk about, so it's about how much they save energy. We are classified as an SME, which we want to engage with a lot of SMEs in this process, as well as the larger customers on the site. And so we get some of the drivers, the market drivers that you guys might face. And also we're here to give independent and impartial advice. That's what we do for government. We deal with maybe 1 million customers contacting our website. We run an advice line for the government. So we're there to give advice, and we're here to listen. So anything you want to tell us over the next few months about what you feel about this, and I think like Dale said, it's crucial that we hear what you think. So I'm going to go into now a bit of the results. So previously, Dale mentioned there was a feasibility study, and we had 32 responses Arup did to those online surveying and interviews. And even though that doesn't sound much, as you know, it's probably 60% of those people who responded have the energy consumption on the park. So that is a vast majority in terms of representing what the needs of the park is. In terms of the feasibility study, I'll skip that because Dale's already gone through some of the findings. But in terms of the current stakeholder engagement, so if we go back one stage. So there's 3 stages, just to be able to split it up and understand it. Stage 1, we've gone part way through that. As you heard Dale, there's an online tenant survey. We actually sent it out to over 800 businesses and interested stakeholders in terms of the park. We've only had 27 responses. It'd be great to know, show of hands in the room, who's actually responded to that online survey yet? Great, I think that's about 5th. So if all the people here today, if you could actually, but we'll make sure you get the details again where it is. It takes a few minutes, it's online, it's really simple. If you could fill that in, that'd be excellent. If you could do it when you get back to the office, that'd be even better. We expect those numbers to have increased anyway in the last few days, but we do need your feedback. I mean, it's critical over the next few months that we hear what you think, and also what the market drivers, so we can make sure we adapt any procurement or engagement plans with you. So, in terms of the key findings so far from the survey, we know that you guys are telling us you want regular updates. This is the first of those. We view this as the starting point. So we're going to continue to do this. Later on in the year, there'll be further stakeholder events. We know the appetite's there for the network. We also know businesses, you want to expand. We get that. Like I said, we work with a lot of the supply chain to increase jobs. We also work with the supply chain to basically increase your revenue, which ultimately increases the GVA of the local economy. Councils are benefiting, people are spending more money in shops, restaurants, businesses. And then potentially issues with existing supplier contracts. We understand that, you know, you're getting a competitive price for your gas and electricity at the moment. Gas is probably 2 pence per kilowatt hour and maybe 9 pence for electricity. So we've got to be able to say and make it very coherent to you what the competition is in terms of how the energy prices will look in the future. But as you know, I'm not teaching you this, okay, because we know energy prices are going to go up. We've talked to some of you about, are you locked into contracts? How long do you have that guaranteed price as you would in your own home dealing with your household bills? Next slide. So in terms of the initial results, we know the types of tenants, the people who did respond, 60% are in leasehold and 20% freehold. The implications of that is, do you have the ability to change supplier, whether it's gas or electricity or dual? We know that a lot of you, indeed not all of you, want to remain here, which is brilliant news. That's great news for the council, great news in terms of business and driving more tenants to come on site. And also, we come from the angle of the wider community, the schools, the neighbouring households, so it's great for local jobs as well. We understand the majority of you in probably 12 to 15 tenancy leases, so that helps us to understand if this new concept that's come in terms of district heating and the heat network is for 20 to 25 years, that gives you confidence in the market and confidence to go back to the ranch, talk to decision makers about, is this something we need to be actively engaged in? This is something where we can get a better competitive price, can help with our carbon reduction commitment, can help with our reducing our bills, so we have more gross profit. In terms of growth plans, more than half of you are telling us that you do have those for the future. And of those who do have growth plans, nearly all of you remaining on site. Again, that's great news, and that means the stability there in terms of future planning for your networks. We understand less than half of the respondents anticipate your energy use will increase in the future. I can understand that, you know, you'll have objectives, you'll have strategies to reduce your energy use. You might have a dedicated officer to do that, whose objectives are to make sure your energy bills don't go up. And you might be, you know, do an overhaul of your lighting systems and other aspects and technologies to make sure that energy use remains low. Irrespective of that, we know energy prices will go up. So even if your energy use stays the same for the next 20 years, which if you are looking to grow, it's unlikely, then this is something that you really need to be aware of what's going to happen in the future and what your options are for a better competitive price. And ultimately, and this is music to my ears, 90% were considering connecting to a district heating scheme. So this makes it worthwhile. This shows that why it's happening in Europe, why you have countries, Scandinavian countries where 25%, if not more, 60% is from district heating for householders, communities, industry. We want that in this country. We want it here. We know the weather conditions are changing. Whether you believe in climate change or not, energy prices will go up. So this is great news. So lessons learned today, and I'd say this is encapsulated the entire process today. So the feasibility now, the stage we're at now, works, it's getting into the planning and procurement. We understand that you want to develop long-term tenant engagement strategy. We get that. I mean, any large-scale business, any small-scale business needs security. They need confidence in the market, and they need to understand what the market drivers will be in order to plan for the next 5 years, if not 20. It's also about reviewing the approach to marketing. We've got some suggestions later about just to kickstart in terms of the Q&A. What do we need to do more to engage with you? What can the council help in terms of using that 6 million to how to best to engage with you through websites, we've heard about this session being recorded. How can you translate what we're saying to you to the rest of the people who you work with? And your customers ultimately, because you'll have end customers. Also the large businesses, they want this additional capacity and expertise, so that's great news. Some of the smaller ones are finding it difficult to engage with them. Again, show of hands, would anyone classify themselves as a small business in the room? Great, I mean, that is really good news you were able to take the time out this morning, but that's 4, so that's, you know, less than 10% of the room are actually from SMEs. We need to be able to talk to those other businesses on the park, so it's about how we do that. It's about how we provide you with the information in very simple terms. If you're not an energy expert or you're not an economist, how you can explain that back to people, and that's my job, that's what I do day to day. We help people translate very complicated things into simple simple messages. So just tell us what the market drivers are and we'll try and fix that. It's about concise information about what the benefits are. Steve's gone into some of those benefits. Again, how do you translate that back to key people within your organisation who won't care about the carbon reduction commitment? You might ultimately be in charge of energy bills and bringing the bottom line down. And then finally, we just want to make sure we're talking to the right people. So if today, you think there's someone better suited within your organisation, please give us the details and we'll update our database. Next slide. So in the future, I talked about that was stage 1, and today's event is part of that. And then we're just about to go into stage 2. Again, the tenant survey is still live online, so please go in and do that if you've not done that already, or get a colleague to do that. In terms of stage 2, this is where we get into actually procurement and planning. In terms of an invitation to tender will be issued to all the energy suppliers, construction companies, manufacturers and suppliers of district heat network equipment. There's a lot of terminology out there. I know it can get really frustrating, but that's referred to as a DHN. You might be seeing a lot of that over the coming months. And these are the people we talk to during the feasibility, so there's a massive appetite out there. They're competing for these contracts up and down the country and globally, so they will be interested in this site. So it's about how we connect you with them and get you the best price. There's going to be another event in the summer, hosted by the council again. But this time we want to include the wider community. Again, that'll be our job to maybe get some community groups involved, some of your end customers. So if you've got some ideas, please share them with us. You may already be connected to some local parishes, local councils, local schools. So let us know if you are, and we'll invite them along to that event. And then stage 3, this is the latter part, which is where all the tender submissions are reviewed, the best financial and business solution for the park is identified, and then that's promoted and marketed to you guys in the wider community again. And then you'll actually have the knowledge that you can make decisions with, whether it's financial or in the best interest of your employees. Next slide. So we're going to go into a Q&A session shortly. Just some issues to consider before we do. First of all, council do have a wider communication strategy. As Dale said, this is part of a much wider strategy in terms of improvements. So in terms of what they want to achieve in terms of communications, there's a few media channels they're looking at. The first being communications through the business improvement team. They'll be looking at monthly e-newsletters, dedicated web pages. I understand that the video from this will be on there, and emails via the business improvement team. So if you've got suggestions about what you want that content to look like, then feel free to feed them through. External comms through Facebook and Twitter. We know that gets, ourselves, we deal with a lot of the public. We use blogs, we use Twitter, and it's a great way to engage with customers, as you probably know this. Public meetings and forums. The Knowsley Chamber of Commerce Environment Network, they're a good forum that we can utilise. That's what they're there for, so let's use them. And then awareness sessions and workshops. Just tell us ideas about what you think. That's what we want to hear shortly. Other considerations. How do we, it's great you're all here, but your percentage of the 800 businesses, so we want to talk to everybody as much as we can. Again, if you deal with them on a day-to-day basis, they're part of your supply chain, then please encourage them to get involved. How do we get more aggressive with our marketing to make sure that we get it right? The council, they want to get this right. They're making sure they engage at all the different stages over the last few years. We want to continue to do that. And what key information do you need in order to satisfy yourselves, or again, take it back to colleagues who make these decisions? And ultimately, let's get connected to this network and get it up and running. And let's showcase Knowsley, not just in England, but in Europe. We want people visiting here instead of people from England visiting other parks elsewhere. And it'll open up a global market. Thank you.
Okay, just to wrap up then, I think key messages for us is obviously we are committed to the future of the park and driving it for the benefit of you businesses. I think one of the things, Steve's slide certainly showing that this isn't something that hasn't been done before. There are examples out there where it does work, and I think we're building on that. So, and we're at the front of the queue in that. There's a few of them out there, but they're not everywhere. So it's not a case of playing catch up. We are actually driving this agenda forward. I think one of the comments I would make, again, some of the technologies and things Steve outlined in his case studies, For us here on the Industrial and Business Park, at the moment we're looking probably at a gas-fired solution to those energy centres, but with the potential to move into a biomass solution once that feedstock becomes secure. They're the sort of technologies that we're looking at. Ultimately, that will be driven by the partner that we bring on board, but that's our sort of current thinking, and from the sort of discussions that we've had with potential interested parties, that's the line they seem to be going down at the moment. Key drivers for us is obviously to look at getting a secure and an affordable and a competitive energy solution for you. Reduce carbon emissions. We're just starting that journey really here today. The engagement with you and ongoing dialogue is essential, and I would strive, communication is a two-way process, so we can do what we can do, but we need to hear from you as well. So if I could just encourage us all to stick with this, and we'll drive it through, and we'll see some significant benefits and changes coming forward.